What up, YouTube? We are back with yet another Warcraft Rumble video. In this one, guys, we are showcasing the absolute best talents for all of the Horde leaders and minis. You're going to want to make sure you watch this one to the very end. But before we do, I want to give a very special shout out for Warcraft Rumble for sponsoring today's video and the overall channel. I am loving the game, and I'm loving, more importantly, bringing you guys high quality content. That way you can progress as far as you want in the game. Now, this game is totally free to play. I would highly recommend, if you haven't already started playing it, to start doing so, obviously. So these tips actually mean something to you, and you can do so by clicking the link in the description and the pinned comment of today's video. And let's get straight to it. First on our list, I want to talk about good old-fashioned Hellscream. He was actually my very first mini or slash leader in the game when I first started, which wasn't a bad choice. I think there's better choices now that I've played the game for a while and I've beaten Onyxia and I've conquered the raid bosses, but honestly, he's a really phenomenal unit. Now, he has 3 talents like everyone else. So he has Blade Storm, which is gain an AoE blade spin ability that damages all nearby enemies. Mirror Image, which summons 2 fragile mirror images when entering combat. And then Savage Strikes deals double damage to enemies who are below 50% health. Now, Hellscream is one of the units that are very fortunate that all of his talents do something progressive, does something good for his account, for himself. Now, generally speaking, I think widely accepted, I think Mirror Image is going to be the quote-unquote best. That's what I'm going to recommend to all of you today, because it does give you the most amount of damage and sort of additional survivability to Hellscream. The AoE is nice, but it does lower his damage significantly. But you can make a pretty interesting point for Savage Strikes because you can deal double the damage to enemies when they're 50% health or below, which can be really, really good when you're trying to finish off a unit. So, but anyway, generally speaking, Mirror Image is what I go to. Now, for the next leader is Sneed. Sneed is very, very situational. He does cost 5 gold, but he very quickly pays himself back with his Sneed Before Greed ability, which is gains 2 gold whenever a siege damage unit destroys a tower, captures a meeting stone, or opens a chest. Now, Sneed is also a siege unit, so keep that in mind. Now, the talent I like to double down with that ability is Lead with Greed, so you gain an additional 2 gold when he triggers it. So instead of getting 2 gold, you get 4 gold. Now, this can very easily max out your gold situation when you're playing with Sneed, especially in PvP, which is why I like it. But another good talent, if you don't want to do that, is Money is My Friend. Mine is Money Friend. Oh, wow. I just read that like hella dyslexic. Anyway, gain the Miner talent. So he can now mine. He actually mines very quickly. But ultimately, guys, I think that Lead Before Greed is his best option. The other one is Land Grab, which is gains a level whenever Sneed Before Greed triggers. You're not going to be using Sneed as like your main weapon in any deck. So I really do think using him as more of a utility is the main choice here. So Lead with Greed is my go-to. Next, we have Karen, who is our Bloodhoof Torn. They have Reincarnate, so after death, resurrect at 50% health once. Then you have Plains Running, moves 50% faster, and gains the Fast trait. The other one is Aftershock. When stun expires, affected enemies are dazed for 5 seconds. The one that is good for most decks is going to be Reincarnate because it's just going to help Karen be a little bit more tanky because they just come back to life again. And it's awesome. And a lot of people like that. I like it. That's what I'm going to be running. But there are some decks where you can do Plains Running with the Fast trait and really just get Karen to a tower and just obliterate the tower. But very situational in that specific deck. So it is not a bad choice, but the best choice, and that's what sort of the goal of this video, is we want to talk about the best choice for most decks, and that's going to be a Reincarnate. Because again, it's going to be really difficult to get all of the different talents that you're going to want for all of your Horde units or all your minis in general. So you want to make sure you pick your talents for your minis and your leaders very carefully in the beginning. So that's the point of this video series where we go through all the different families. Next, we're going to go ahead and check out our Frostwolf Shaman. Now, I have all of them unlocked. So Earth Shield is, I'm just going to tell you right up front, is amazing. So gains armor to a nearby ally. Ability has 1 charge. So as soon as Frostwolf Shaman is summoned, she plays a shield on the first ally mini that she comes by. Now, this is really, really good as a support unit because she also heals. And then, so if you partner this, like you can see that I am with Karen, she puts armor on Karen, making them immensely stronger. Now, next up is Witch Doctor. Now, Witch Doctor is a newer unit that came to the game. It was not out at launch, and I'm going to tell you right now that I picked wrong. So the first one I picked was Amplify Curse, which enemies killed by Curse Explosion also explode. Now, Why was I wrong? This damage is nice because it's like a trigger explosion. So you go boom, 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 and like everything in a like swarm just blows up, like banshees or not banshees, harpies. I was looking at banshee and thought of harpy, but harpies will explode, hatchlings will explode. You know, all of those will just obliterate. And then the next talent is Alchemist. So periodically drop a potion granting bloodlust to the first ally who touches it. This one is kind of meh because by the time you get to it, it's so much RNG. You're probably gonna have bloodlust run out before you actually you end up engaging with the unit. So I don't use this one at all. But the one that I wish I got first is this one, which is Spirit Ward. On kill, grant a shield to nearby allies, absorbing the next hit against them, regardless of the hit, including a spell, mind you. This one is so strong. I completely misunderstood it in the beginning, and I wish I would have picked it earlier. I actually got it last, so I had to get Witch Doctor to Epic, which is a very recent achievement on my end, in order to benefit from this talent, and I'm so glad that I did because this talent is obnoxiously good, and I'm a big fan of it. Next up, we have Execute, which is the main spell, if you will, for the Horde. So you have Killing Spree. If an enemy is killed, the next Horde mini costs 1 less. So if you kill an enemy with Execute, your next Horde mini that you spawn will cost 1 less gold. So very situational. It is some gold. Gold is the biggest part of the game. So if you can manage your gold well and you can do it better than the other person and shut down their gold income, then you can generally win. However, not the case when it comes to Execute. Execute is... This talent is, in my opinion, the go-to talent, which is going to be Bloodthirsty. So Bloodlust allies within spell area for 10 seconds. So generally speaking, you're going to be using Execute on either a boss or on a group of minis as they are attacking. And you're going to want to make sure that you do it near a tower in some cases, and especially in PvP, so that way you can ideally get the tower. So that's why I use Bloodthirsty. The other one, if you wanted to use it, was Overpower, which is knocking enemies away from the cast location. Very situational. You could almost knock off enemies if the maps were different, but ultimately I think this is the best one for you. Moving on, this guy is awesome. Dark Spear Troll is a very, very solid unit. Big Bad Voodoo is going to be your go-to in most situations because he regenerates 20% health every second. So he is just constantly healing. When you face the Dragon Tower in PvP, he is an all-star because he can literally take a whole turret by himself because he heals faster than the damage he takes at max range from the turret. Now, the other talent that I utilize sometimes is Serpent Sting, which means he gains poison. So if you're in a situation where you're building a death ball and you have a Frostwolf Shaman able to heal both your tank and the Dark Spear Troll, then you can get the additional damage with this one, which is Serpent Sting, gaining poison. The other one, if you're interested, is Head Hunting, which is on kill, increases attack and movement speed by 10%, can stack up to 50%. I've never utilized it, as you can see. I think it's very situational. I don't think you're going to have a 3-cost gold running around killing everything, so I don't see the value in that, but I do like Big Bad Voodoo most consistently. Moving on, we have Warsong Raider, who is, you could basically mainly use as a siege unit, which is for this talent, which is raising focus. So it becomes a siege unit, ignoring enemy minis. So this Warsong Raider will literally just go straight to the tower and start doing damage to it. And it is a very tanky unit and can tank a lot of damage as long as it's not a dragon tower, which does like the AoE cone as you get closer to it. So this one is really, really good. But not to be undone, Sundered Armor could also be good, which is damaging an enemy damaging an armored enemy removes their armor. So there are situations where that's beneficial, but even the last one, Saboteur, damaging a tower reduces its damage dealt by 50% for the next 3 seconds. I mean, assuming that you're using it, and now it would be nice if you could combine the two, but you can't. So I use Raising Focus the most because in PvP is the main place I use this unit. I just want them to go to the tower. I will use other units to clear off everyone else, but I need them to go to the tower and just do a ton of damage. So that's what I would recommend for most people, is Raising Focus. Next is the other spell that the Horde has, and that's Chain Lightning. The first is Brilliant Flash. On deploy, stun enemies for 1 second. The other one is Reverberation, can be cast a second time. And the last one is Storm's Reach, dramatically increase the jump distance between targets. I've seen people use all 3 of these. I only use the 2 that I have unlocked. Can be cast a second time is really good in situations depending on what you're running, like which leader you're running and who you're using it for. So it's situational, but I think the overall best is going to be Brilliant Flash because that stun after using it is really nice to be able to have some follow-up damage from your minis. So I would recommend Brilliant Flash for Chain Lightning. Next, we have the Stone Hoof Tauren. So we have Momentum. After connecting a charge, immediately charge a second time if possible. So if there is more than 1 unit, the Stone Hoof Tauren will charge hit that first one, and then will charge and immediately hit the second one, doing a ton of damage, and they are a very tanky unit. Or you could use Pummel, which is after connecting a charge, stun the target for 3 seconds, which is a pretty long stun, admittedly. Or you can use Provoke, after connecting the target, taunts nearby enemies. The one that I use the most is definitely Momentum. I unlocked Pummel first, which is okay, but I really like Momentum when I do use the Stonehoof Torn, which isn't a lot, but I do think this is probably the better talent of the 3. This guy. So then we have Ogre Mage. Ogre Mage has Ignite, which is burning enemies. And then you have Frost Fire Bolt, which is the exact opposite. You gain Frost, so you burn or you Frost / freeze and slow them. Or you can get Avarice, which is gains Bloodlust when bloodlusting an ally. So his ability is that he will bloodlust an ally at nearby Horde units, or any is it any units or just Horde units? I can't remember now. There you go. Using Fireball is always brutal, but buffs nearby allies with Bloodlust. Okay, so you do get Bloodlust for all allies. Frostbolt is really good if you want to try to take on Onyxia, if you're going to level up Ogre Mage. I've seen different decks using Frostbolt. Ignite is also good, but generally because of how much damage Ogre Mage does, I like Frostbolt in general because it does slow the pack, and then I don't know how you would identify them. They will just be able to multiple hit it and then basically kill it by itself. So Ogre Mage is very good, but at a 5 cost, it's a little, you have to use it tactfully. Then we have Bat Rider. So enriching vials, increasing the size of the flaming pool by 30% is the one that I use the most. So this pool that Bat Rider drops is just massive at this point. And if you get it to a tower, it can basically just cover the whole tower area. And if any units are summoned near or on that tower, the space is just huge, and they just basically immediately die. Fiery Surplus is accidentally leave vials on the ground, burning nearby enemies that touch them. Too much RNG for me. And then last but not least is the Flaming Pitch. Flaming Pool reduces enemies' speed by 30%. Very situational. It could lead to them ultimately dying because they're going to be slowed down. But I definitely like the Enchanted Vials the most, so that's the one I would pick. These guys are fun. Goblin Sapper. So we have Rocket Powered Turbo Boost, move twice as fast and gain the fast trait. And then we have the Extra Boom, which means they deploy with 1 extra Goblin Sapper. So instead of 2, you get 3. And then last but not least, there's last but not least, it is Crude Gunpowder. So on death, burn nearby enemies, which is situational. Generally, you're going to use these guys on the towers. You could use it on bosses where the burn could be good, but I use Rocket Powered Turbo Boost the most because, especially in PvP, if you use them with Cheat Death, it's just a brilliant combo and it's super fun. So that's the one I would recommend. Last but not least, we do have our Warsong Grunts. Generally speaking, I have never used these at a 5 cost. They're very, very expensive. However, they are extremely tanky and have a situational use. So guard duty is one of them, one of the talents, which is remain at the deploy location until entering combat. So if you wanted to, in some PvE situations, if you wanted to guard your tower, if you're like sort of under level or under power, you could straight up guard your base with these guys, but again, they are not immune to like any flying units, so they would just basically die to a flying unit. So there's that. I didn't mean to click off of that. They also have Blood Pack, so when one grunt dies, the other gains Bloodlust. But again, you're losing 50% of your overall damage by having one of them die, so it doesn't feel good to focus on a talent that basically makes them want to lose one of them. The other talent is Command, where nearby beast allies deal 30% additional damage, which is fine, except that it doesn't buff this unit. So it's a Horde unit buffing all beast units nearby. So it's a situational deck you could run it with, but at that point, like, beasts are all about being very cheap and fast to use with little gold. So the Warsong Grunt is the opposite of that, where it's a very expensive unit at 5 gold, but then you also want to have other units around it. So that's where like I don't use them that much, but if I do, I'd probably use it for guard duty in some rare cases. That's gonna do it for today's video, guys. Again, I think Horde is probably the lesser utilized overall units or family, if you will. But some of the units are just the absolute best, such as the Frostwolf Shaman and the Witch Doctor, which again is not one of the original ones. But then there are some situational ones like this guy, like I talked about. So I hope you found this video helpful. If you guys want to see more, make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you want to download and play with me and play Warcraft Rumble totally for free, link in the description. Click it, download it. You won't regret it. It is such a fun game. I find myself playing it every single day. And once again, thank you so much to Warcraft Rumble for sponsoring today's video, and I hope to see you guys in a video soon. Take it easy.